welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're making a start on our kitten's body, probably just this left hand side, we'll see, but I do think it'll just be the left hand side. If you've got any questions, let me know. As usual, everything is linked below in the description box. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Like the video, it really helps me and my channel out. And yeah, let's just get started. So I've just zoomed you in and I'm just going to start lifting some of this graphite. And then we're going to come in with our coal grey one and we're going to make sure that with our coal grey we're really following this fur direction. So it's curving around this body. And again, we're getting those nice stray bits of fur coming off. I'm just going to build up pretty much a lot of this part of the leg with the coal grey one. Again, I'm just doing it in little strokes to build it up very gently so that we can build up this colour subtly. So this will take a little bit of time, so don't worry, just take your time with it. And I know that this kind of blue area, so the colder tones, is coming up to this line here. Got a lot of darkening up of this part of her body to do. Just keep making sure that we're in frame. I hope you have enjoyed this one though. I know white fur can be quite complicated. This is definitely different to the white fur we've done previously on the Dalmatian and on the Border Collie. So even though all those, the dogs have white fur, and this kitten is obviously white, the way that we've approached the white fur has been different for each one. Right, I think I'm just going to leave this about here. We'll just work on this section so that we can build it up nicely. So I'm just going to take my Skyblue, very gently bringing in the Skyblue along here. And you can see how light my pressure is. I'm not pressing hard at all. Tickling that paper with your pencil. And then I'm just going to take my coal grey one again, and I'm going to use harder pressure and just build up, go right up to that chin. We don't want a white line across, like a halo effect around any of this, so we want to make sure we're going right up to those lines. And I'm pressing a little harder now with that coal grey one. You can see now we're starting to build up that detail as well. Okay, now taking my coal grey 2 And again, I'm coming under this chin, right up to that chin, and then bringing that cold grey colour down. And you can see now we're just starting to build up that shadow underneath the chin and the head with a cold grey too, and it's just starting to give you that separation between body and head. Okay, I'm gonna get my white, which is I've just put away, and again use my white just to help smooth out these layers. So I'm just going over the top of all this layer that we've got down, just burnishing, again following the shape of the fur, the direction of the fur. Okay, back to the cold grey one, and I'm just going to keep bringing this cold grey one down this part of the leg. So this is coming down the chest into a leg. Again, creating some of those flyaway hairs. And we are going to work on top of all this. We're just getting our base layers and our base colours down. We've got to get a lot of darker tones into this part. Now you can see that the fur has changed direction. So here we're curving round and across. Here the fur is just curving slightly downwards and then around. So always make sure that you're drawing that fur in the right direction, especially as we're going for that realistic look to this kitten. And then I'm just going to curve this up. Oh, sorry, I got a bit of a runny nose today. Just going to sharpen my pencil. Okay. I just need to lift that graphite. Can we still see what I'm working on? So I move you up. Here we go. Be able to see all of this leg then. Okay. Just also going to remove this graphite here. So this graphite here is indicating where we've got the darker fur. So I'm just going to bring my cold grey one up to these places as well, because this will give us a nice indication of where we need to get this nice darker look to our fur. You can see I'm just taking my time, following the curves of this leg. We want to start bringing in that 3D-ness. And we're just doing this by following the fur direction. Underneath the fur is the shape of our animal. those straggly ends mapped in ever slightly. Now we can add more little straggly ends. They don't need to be exact right now. And then I'm just going to get I feel like I need to tape the bottom of this paper so I get a nice straight line. Okay, so I'm just going to bring that line in here. So here, as we come here, we've got that little marking, and that's because the fur is coming up and round. So I'm just going to make sure that I follow that, but I'm not going to be focusing on that area just yet. Again, just mapping in, and I am going to get my tape and just tape along this bottom edge so that I get a nice straight edge. I want a nice straight edge because, oops. Okay, let me get my tape. Okay, so for the tape that I'm using at the bottom of my picture, it's framing tape. It's very low tack, so I find that it doesn't affect my paper in any way. So I'm just going to erase that graphite line. I don't know why I struggled to think of the word. So if you've got that graphite line drawn out, just erase it where your tape's going to be, because your tape's going to create that solid edge. Just use that putty eraser to pick up those. So yeah, your tape will create that solid edge. I might just need to get that bit as well. So you don't need your graphite line to be there. So my tape. And I'm just going to measure the length, about that much. Tear the tape off. Now, oops, stick the tape onto my, like, your trousers or your blanket. Just reduce some of that tack. It's not very tacky anyway. And then I'm just going to line it up where that graphite line was and stick. And then I can go back to my coal grey one. And I can start bringing that fur right down to this line, and we're going to get a nice straight edge to our fur and our kitten. Obviously, if I was to mount this piece, I would make sure that the mount goes right up to the fur line. Okay, and now we have our base layer across all of that leg here. So now we just need to build up some midtones and some shadows. Okay, so we're now going back to our coal grey 2, and we're going to start to build up some of that shadow that we can see. And it's mainly along this right hand side of that base layer that we've got mapped in. And again, I'm just following that fur direction. And you're just going to start building up using medium pressure, not too hard. We don't want it to be as dark as we get. So if I was to press really hard with this coal grey 2, can you see, this is me burnishing. We're not going as dark as this yet. We're just slowly building it up. And I'm just following the shape. I'm just going to build up under this head as well, a little bit more. And all I'm doing is following the fur direction and just building up that colour. And it's going to comes across this leg to about here. And we're just building up little clumps and clusters of fur. And I'm doing this by doing like little V shapes. So I'm creating those little V's. See, we've got all these little V's going on. And down this part of the leg as well. We're curving round. So we're going to get quite dark down here. So a lot of this is going to get a lot darker than what we've already just drawn in, but we just take our time and build it up to the depth that we want. And I'll probably come back to this and darken it up a little more. As we know, I like to just take my time and build it up slowly. So just following that fur direction, and I'm not copying the fur strokes like for like from the reference photo, using the reference photo to guide me in the direction that the fur is going and where the depth in the fur is. But we're just creating some little strokes. So your strokes will be different to mine, and that's completely fine. You're just using that reference photo to guide you with the fur direction. Remember, this cat could have moved and it could have got up, sat back down in this exact same position, and that fur will have changed position as well. So we're just making sure that it's going in the correct direction to give us the form of the animal, but it doesn't matter. It's not exact. Okay, and then going back to the sky blue. And you don't want to press too hard with the sky blue. You just want it to be touching that paper to leave some pigment, but we don't want it to be too dark yet. And I'm just going over that coal grey 2 area. And you can see I've left some highlights. We've got some little like lighter strands of fur showing through. It's just about building up these layers and creating that look of different types of fur going on. Now we do definitely want to darken down here a lot more. Right, I'm just going back to the coal grey 2 and I'm just going to blend this out a bit more, and then we'll go back to our coal grey 1 over the top of all of this. So when I say I'm blending out, I'm just making sure that this coal grey 2 is just a nice seamless blend into that lighter area. Okay, and then get the coal grey 1. Again, fur strokes. And I'm using medium pressure here, so I'm not pressing too hard, but enough pressure just to get a nice seamless blend over the top. And then I'll take my white and once again go over all this. Okay, so you can see we've really started to build up this section of fur. Right, so down here we want to be darker, so I've got my coal grey 3 this time, and I'm just going to start, this edge is where we've got the darker fur, so it's going to come out until I've just sharpened that pencil. And again, I'm just lightly pressing the paper, but you can see already it's going to be darker down here. So even though this is white fur, we're really starting to bring that depth and those tonal changes into the fur. And it's one of the things that I see with white fur, and I've been I was one of these artists as well, always too scared to go too dark with the white. So we have a tendency, even with other colours, to stay too light. And there's times where I still do it now. I know I can still go a lot darker with some of my work, but we stay light, and we're scared to go dark because obviously you go too dark and then you think you've ruined it. But with white fur, what I've learned as I've been doing this is not to be too scared to go too dark. So this looks scary already. But remember, all of this is going to be quite dark as we come across our kitten. And it's all going to come together at the end. And what we do to ease our minds is we just use light pressure to build up this darker fur. Darker white fur, which sounds strange. The Cold Grey 2 again. And then I'm going to take my Cold Grey 1 in this corner. Remember to go over that tape so we'll get that straight line. I'm just going to bring that Cold Grey 1 over that Cold Grey 3 area, so across this whole bottom area. Now I know this is going to go a lot darker, but we want to get the rest of this kitten in first. And then I'm going to get my white. Now remember, when we use that white, it does lighten it ever so slightly. Okay. Right, I'm pretty happy with how that area is looking. So we're just going to start building up again here. With our Cold Greys again. So need to sharpen this. Now this bottom area here is black. Obviously the cat's on like a blanket or a chair arm, something like that. Now we're not going to get this bottom area done till we've got most of the cat in. And that's because obviously we are using black. Black is quite smudgy. The black pencils are quite smudgy. So we want to ensure that we leave that till the end. Right, we've got some whiskers on this kitten's face. So I'm just going to sharpen my white and we're going to draw in the whiskers like we've done with the rest of the face. Okay, so I'm just going to bring some of these white whiskers in. I'm pressing hard again. And just drawing in that wax resist that we want, or the oil resist, the oil based pencils. But it creates that resist for our other layers. So I'm just doing it across all of this chin so that they're in, and then if I forget, like I'm very good at forgetting, they're in already. So this is another method you can use for any times where I use like the slice tool. Just get your white whiskers mapped in, your white fur mapped in, and then you'll be good to go. So I'm just also, there's a lot of little white hairs down here. So I'm just going to start mapping them in as well, especially in this darker area, which we're going to start working up the darker fur. So I am going to draw some of these whiter hairs over the top, but down here we've got quite a little bit of white hair fluff going on, stray hairs. So any areas where you just want to preserve that little bit of white fur, map them in. And I don't think we'll come all the way across here today, but Just going to map in some white fur. Right, and then I'm going into my coal grey one, and again just going to start following the shape, the direction of the fur. Make sure you're still recording. So our next tutorial is going to be a fox, and I'm excited for that one. I'm going to do the little fox head. May actually utilise this method of the white pencil to get some of the detail. If you have the slice tool, you can use the slice tool for it, but I want to try and not use as many little tools, because not everybody has them, and I do want to make these tutorials as accessible as possible. I think when I do my Patreon, I'll make sure that I include common materials, and then people know to go and get like the slice tool, because I probably will use it more on the Patreon tutorials when we launch that. Okay, so you can see I've only just done the little smooth layer with the coal grey 1, and then I'm going to come in with the coal grey 2, and again we're just creating some little fur details now. I need to darken under that chin, so I'm pushing the pencil up and under that chin, creating that effect that the chin is overlapping, and then I can come down here. Like so. So we know now we can darken that side up a bit more, so I'm going to come in again with the coal grey 2. I'm just going to sharpen my coal grey 2. I want a really sharp pencil so I can get the details along that side. Okay, so with my coal grey 2, sorry, just going to start coming in, pressing a little harder. And just starting to build up more depth in this fur. So this is why I don't expect to finish this body today. Especially with white fur, I like to do a lot of back and forth. So we got this area in, we thought we had it dark, but then you bring in another side of the fur and you can just tell straight away that you can go darker. So you go back to an area. And this is completely fine to do. You don't need to work on an area and finish it. Okay, so you can see how I'm just really starting to darken along this fur, leaving some highlights. Which also shows now that this area will go darker, but I am going to leave this area, this bottom area, for when we've got that black blanket in. Just because it's going to make it easier to work on those tonal values. For me personally anyway, that's how I work. If you feel you can judge those tonal values, go ahead and draw them in. Okay, I'm also going to just take my 1 grey 2 underneath this neck and blend it lightly outwards into that coal grey area. Just want a little bit more depth underneath here. And you can see how we've got these white whiskers showing through. Okay, then the sky blue. in the cold grey one again, because I can darken along here, and I'm blending into that area that we've already got drawn down. Okay, and then I'm using the white. To blend across all of this area. Like so. Okay, that's looking a lot better. Just going to take my cold grey 2 again. Just add in some details. Okay. So back to the cold grey one, sorry. And down here we've got the fur curving this way. And then as we come up here, that fur will curve this way around. So I'm just going to get the fur going this way first. Just need to lift that bit of graphite. Again, we're going into that darker fur. So I am going to leave some of this area for when we come down there. So this is just the cold grey one. And then the cold grey 2, building up some of that tones, some of those tones and texture in this fur. And then the white pencil. Over the top of that. Just going to take my cold grey 2 again. Just going to darken some of this fur here. So I don't think this tutorial is going to take us that long to finish now. Maybe another 2 parts. 1 or 2 parts. So we may end up with another bonus tutorial this month. If there is one, it will have been posted about in the Facebook group, so make sure you join the group. Nice community building up in there, which is nice. Okay, and then the white pencil, again, just over the top. So you can see just by building up that cold grey 2, built up some nice fur definition on this kitten. And she's looking rather cute. Right, the cold grey 1, and this time the fur is coming down and to the right hand side. So you're getting that change in fur direction. It's only very slightly here at this point. And then it is going to curve around. And you can see I'm using longer pencil strokes because the fur on this body is longer than what it was on the face. Okay, so I'm just going to do this little section first and we'll build up the colours, or the tonal values I should say. Okay, so the coal grey 2 under that neck. Up and under that chin. Again, as I'm building each layer, I'm focusing on that fur direction with every single layer. Okay, I'm going to take my warm grey 1. Start getting a bit of warmth in this fur. So blending over that coal grey 2. And then bringing it round this leg. This body, sorry. And then I'm going to take my coal grey 1. Again, just building up some little fur definition, fur details, over that warm grey colour again. And then I'm going to take the white over the top there. Okay, so I want to just map in that colour here. So I'm just going to take my coal grey 2, getting a little darker there. Actually, I'm going to take my warm grey 2, it's a bit warmer. Just along this edge, it's blending outwards. So I'm bringing that warm grey 2 up and outwards. So tapering those edges to get that seamless blend that we want. And then the warm grey 1. And then back to the coal grey 1. Over the top of all that. So you can see we've started to map in where we are going to be darker. And I'm just going to make sure that this coal grey 1 is going over those warm grey areas, getting a nice blend. Like so. Right, we're going to keep coming over with this coal grey on this body. I just need to move you over so you can see it. Okay, so we're going to stick with the coal grey 1 now. And we're just going to follow the fur direction. Now it really starts to curve around here. So I'm just going to map in where that curve is. And then along here it's curving round. Like that. So it's going to start curving because we've got this leg. And I'm just going to use that graphite. Going to map those whiskers in with my white. Before I get everywhere with this base layer. So that whisker was coming down here, and then we've got a nice long whisker. Mapping some little whiskers there. Right, okay. So now I can just start bringing this coal grey 1 along here, and again it's curving, so that fur should go in that way. So just building up, all of this area is going to be the coal grey one. So you're just going to apply it across all of this, and you're just looking at that reference photo, following that fur direction. So I know I'm not chatting much here, but it is just, like other areas, a repetitive process, just building up this first layer. I think we'll probably finish when we've got this part of the body done. And then all that's left to do is the paw and the darker shading. So yeah, I think it's going to be finished pretty soon, is our little kitten. I've really enjoyed doing this one. I love drawing, obviously, you know me, I love drawing dogs, but it's nice every now and then to draw something different. So hopefully a lot of you are going to enjoy drawing this kitten. And then we've got the fox next, and a bird coming up. So there's going to be a lot of different tutorials coming up. Right, I'm just going to lift this graphite along the edge here because I'm getting closer to this edge. And obviously I just want those stray flyaway hairs. Nearly there now. Okay, right, so I've got coal grey 1 as that base layer across all of that body now. So we just need to build up some more textures and tones, and before we finish the tutorial. So I'm going for warm grey 2, and I'm going to work from the bottom because this area is quite light. So we're just going to get these darker tones in again. I have to work out why my pencil breaks every time it's just sharpened. So this is the warm grey 2. Blend that upwards as well. Okay, and then the warm grey 1 over the top of that. And then I'm going to get the coal grey 2. I'm going to use medium pressure, so I'm pressing a little harder with this coal grey 2. Just so I get that depth to the fur. Okay, and then I'm going to just stick with this coal grey 2. We're going to start bringing in the detailing on this side of the neck. Again, I want a nice depth to that fur a little bit there. depth there. And all the time, I know I say it loads, fur direction, always important. And then I'm going to go back to the coal grey one, just on this section that we've just drawn in. Blend over the top. See, we're just starting to really build up some really nice textures. And then I'm going to take the white, oops, stuck on a piece of paper, and just burnish that layer. So just where we've applied those other colours, and just going in and just burnishing with the white. Okay, we're nearly there. So I'm taking the coal grey 2 again. And again, following that fur direction. And just creating that definition to the fur. You can see. So it's just little details. And I'm going to take the warm grey 1 to do these details along this side. Okay, and I'm going to bring that warm grey up here as well. And then back to the coal grey 2. Just going to highlight where we've got that paw will be coming in front, so that leg is in front of this harsher line. And back to the coal grey 1 over all of this. Again, always making sure you're doing it in that direction of that fur. I'm going to sharpen my coal grey 1 again. And we're going to start getting some of those little flyaway hairs drawn in. So along here I've got a few little flyaway hairs that I just need to map in. And keep it following that direction. And then the white over all of this section again. Really burnish those colours together. So I think in the next part we should definitely get this kitten finished. Be a lot of building up to the darker levels, but we've got the body done today. So it's just the paw and the darker fur to draw in. Coal grey 2. So I'm just doing little details now. I'm not really looking at my reference photo now. I'm looking at my drawing and I'm looking and seeing where do I want definition and where do I need the contrast. And I just want a little bit more under that neck. I'm going to take the warm grey 2 next. Especially underneath this chin. I just want that chin to look like it really is in front of our body. And add a little bit more detail down here. Okay. And then this is the warm grey 2 again, along there. I'm also going to take my, what have I got here? I want my Nougat. I'm just trying to find it because I put everything away. Nougat, there we go. Got my Nougat, and I'm just going to bring in, because it is darker above this paw, so I'm just going to bring in that Nougat for that brownish tinge that I can see along this edge of this paw. And again, taper those edges, so lighten your pressure as you're bringing it into that warm grey area that we've already got mapped in. I'm going to bring it along part of the way there. Okay, and then take your warm grey 2 over the top. And I think I'm going to leave cold grey 2. Just going to do a bit of detail, but I think I'm going to leave this tutorial at this point because we've got the body mapped in. Cold grey 1. And I don't want to start that paw or the blanket until the next part where we can finish that off, do our finishing touches like the rest of the whiskers that we just need to draw in. So yeah, we will finish our kitten in the next part. Just making sure I've got that cold grey over all that. Let me have a look. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Let me zoom you out then. So here's our kitten, and you can see part of her body. And yeah, I'm really happy with how she's turning out. So I hope you've enjoyed this part of the tutorial. If you've got any questions, let me know. But I will see you all in the next one, where we will finish her paw and the darker body. Bye everybody.